there is a moment most people never recognize. It doesn't arrive loudly. There is no shock, no announcement, no dramatic collapse of the world around you. Everything looks the same. People speak the same way. The routines continue. But internally, something shifts. A small distance appears between you and what is happening. And in that distance, you notice something unsettling. You are watching yourself react. Not reacting yet, just watching. That moment is the crack in the system. Until then, life feels like participation without choice. Emotions rise before permission is given. Words leave your mouth before you decide to speak. Anger, guilt, excitement, fear, each one pulls you forward like a current. You call this being human. You call it personality. You call it normal. But it is something else. It is automation. The system does not control you through force. It never needed to. It works through speed. It works by making sure reactions happen faster than awareness. The faster you react, the deeper inside it you remain. And the moment you slow down enough to notice the reaction forming, the system hesitates. It loses frictionless access. Most people never slow down. They mistake movement for life, noise for meaning, emotion for truth. They spend their lives inside loops they did not choose, defending identities they did not build consciously, exhausted by conflicts that were triggered, not decided. But the one who really notices something changes. Not externally, internally. You stop being fused with the reaction. You stop being identical to the thought. You stop being dragged by the emotion. You don't suppress it. You don't fight it. You simply see it. And seeing is enough. This video is not about escaping society. It's not about rejecting people. It's not about becoming cold, detached, or superior. It's about the quiet moment when awareness appears and control quietly dissolves. Nothing dramatic happens. No one applauds. But from that moment on, the system no longer has total access to you. If you're here for loud motivation, this isn't it. If you're here to feel powerful, this isn't that either. But if you're here to understand why noticing changes everything, stay. If this way of seeing resonates with you, stay with the channel. Not for answers, but for clarity. Quiet power is built by those who observe before they move. The system does not begin outside of you. That is the first illusion. Most people imagine control as something imposed, something done to them by institutions, authority figures, or abstract forces. This belief keeps attention pointed outward, searching for enemies, explanations, and resistance. But the real system is far closer. It lives in timing. It lives in habit. It lives in the invisible gap between stimulus and response. From the moment you wake up, reactions begin. A notification pulls your attention. A memory shifts your mood. A tone in someone's voice tightens your chest. None of these moments feel dramatic. They feel ordinary. That ordinariness is the camouflage. The system survives by feeling like just life. What makes it a system is not cruelty or intention, but automation. Reactions fire before awareness arrives. Thoughts appear fully formed. Emotions move the body without asking permission. Identity rushes in to defend, explain, justify, or attack. All of it happens so quickly that it feels inseparable from who you are. This is where most people remain their entire lives. Not trapped, exactly. Participating unconsciously. The system rewards speed, quick opinions, instant outrage, immediate agreement, rapid defense. The faster someone reacts, the more predictable they become. Predictability is not weakness in a moral sense, but it is vulnerability in a psychological one. Anything predictable can be guided, influenced, and redirected. This is why emotional reactivity is never punished by the system. It is encouraged. Outrage is amplified. Impulses are celebrated. Expressing everything immediately is framed as honesty, courage, or authenticity. No one tells you to pause. No one benefits when you do. Carl Jung described this state as identification with the persona and the ego. You are not observing your thoughts or emotions. You are being them. There is no distance, no witness, no pause. Without that pause, there is no choice. The system does not need to silence you. It only needs you to speak automatically. It does not need to suppress emotion. It only needs emotion to arrive before awareness. In this way, control is maintained not through restriction, but through acceleration. Noticing interrupts speed. The first time you notice a reaction forming, it feels subtle, almost disappointing. There is no dramatic enlightenment. You simply catch yourself. A tightening in the chest, a thought preparing to defend, a familiar emotional script starting to load. For a fraction of a second, you are not inside it. You are looking at it. That fraction of a second is everything. In that space, the system stutters. It relies on momentum. When momentum slows, leverage disappears. You do not need to stop the reaction. You do not need to judge it. You do not need to fix anything. The noticing alone introduces choice where there was none. Most people mistake this moment for indecision or weakness. They fear hesitation. They fear silence. They fear not responding fast enough. But what they are really fearing is the loss of their automatic identity. When reaction pauses, the familiar sense of self loosens. That can feel like emptiness at first. The system trains you to fill that emptiness immediately, with noise, with certainty, with opinion, with action. But if you remain in that space just a little longer, something else appears. Presence. You realize that you are still here without reacting. The world does not collapse. Relationships do not end instantly. Your identity does not dissolve. The urgency was an illusion. This is why noticing feels threatening to the system. It creates non-participation. You are still present, still engaged, but no longer compulsively contributing energy to the loop. You are no longer feeding it automatically. At this stage, many people turn back. They feel the discomfort of not reacting and mistake it for danger. They return to familiar patterns because familiarity feels like safety. The system welcomes them back without resistance. Those who continue do not become passive. They become precise. They begin to see how often emotion is not information, but conditioning. How often thoughts are recycled scripts. How often identity is triggered rather than chosen. None of this requires rejection of emotion or thought. It requires separation. This separation is not cold. It is clean. When you notice consistently, patterns reveal themselves. The same provocations, the same emotional hooks, the same situations that once felt unique now appear repetitive. You realize how often your reactions were rehearsed long before the moment arrived. The system thrives on this rehearsal. Predictable reactions allow predictable outcomes. But when noticing becomes stable, predictability breaks down. Others sense it before they understand it. Conversations change rhythm. Provocations lose effectiveness. Silence becomes heavier than words. This is not dominance. It is withdrawal of supply. You are not stepping outside society. You are stepping outside unconscious participation. The system does not disappear. It simply loses access. And access was always the only power it had. Have you ever noticed how sometimes your emotions just take over? One minute you're fine, and the next, you're snapping at someone or feeling completely overwhelmed. It's like a switch flips, and suddenly, you're not in the driver's seat anymore. This is what we call emotional reactivity. It's when we react instantly to a situation based on our feelings, without pausing to think. It might look like yelling when you're frustrated, shutting down when you're hurt, or immediately feeling anxious when something unexpected happens. We all do it. It's a natural human response, a defense mechanism that's been with us for a long time. But when these automatic reactions start causing problems in our relationships, at work, or just with our own peace of mind, it might be time to explore a different way. And that different way is through emotional awareness. Think of it as the superpower that lets you pause the movie of your life right before the big explosion. Instead of just reacting, you become aware of what you're feeling. You can say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling angry right now. My heart is racing, my fists are clenched. This simple act of noticing is incredibly powerful. It creates a tiny bit of space between the trigger, the thing that sets you off, and your response. And in that space, you have a choice. You're no longer a puppet pulled by emotional strings. You're the one holding them. So, how do we get more of this emotional awareness? It starts with simple check-ins throughout your day. Just ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Don't judge the feeling. Just name it. Is it excitement? Is it boredom? Is it a little bit of stress? The more you practice identifying your emotions in calm moments, the easier it will be to spot them when things get intense. Another great tool is paying attention to your body. Our emotions live in our bodies. A tight jaw might signal stress. A pit in your stomach could be anxiety. A warm feeling in your chest might be joy. When you feel a strong emotion coming on, scan your body. Where do you feel it? This grounds you in the present moment and helps you see the emotion for what it is, a temporary wave of energy passing through you. Let's try a little exercise together. Think about the last time you had a strong emotional reaction. Maybe you got some frustrating news or had a disagreement with someone. Can you remember what the trigger was? Now, try to recall what you felt in your body right before you reacted. Was there a tightening in your chest? Did your face get hot? This isn't about blaming yourself for the reaction. It's about becoming a detective of your own inner world. The more clues you gather, the better you'll understand your own patterns. You'll start to see your triggers coming from a mile away. This journey from reactivity to awareness isn't about getting rid of your emotions. Emotions are essential. They're messengers. Anger might be telling you a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be telling you that you've lost something important. Fear is there to keep you safe. The goal is to learn how to listen to these messages without letting them hijack your behavior. Instead of yelling when you're angry, you can learn to say, I feel angry when this happens, and I need to set a boundary. That's the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is automatic and often destructive. A response is conscious, considered, and constructive. Developing this awareness takes practice. It's like building a muscle. Some days it will feel easy, and other days you'll fall back into old patterns. That's perfectly okay. The key is to be kind to yourself. Every time you notice you've reacted, that's a win. Because in that moment of noticing, you're practicing awareness. You're strengthening that muscle. Over time, you'll find that the space between trigger and response gets bigger. You'll feel more in control, not by suppressing your feelings, but by understanding them. You become the calm center in your own emotional storm. If you find that your emotional reactions are causing you significant distress, please remember it's a sign of strength to ask for help. A therapist or counselor can provide you with tools and support tailored to your specific needs. You don't have to navigate this alone. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this resonated with you, give this video a like and subscribe for more content on understanding ourselves better. What are some of your triggers? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. As noticing stabilizes, a deeper realization emerges. The system is not only sustained by reaction and relationship, but by identity. Identity is the most efficient mechanism of control ever created, because it convinces you that defending the system is the same as defending yourself. Once identity fuses with reaction, Questioning either feels like self-destruction. Most people do not react to events. They react to threats against who they believe they are. A comment feels insulting, not because of its content, but because it touches a fragile self-image. A disagreement feels intolerable, not because it is wrong, but because it destabilizes identity. The system teaches you early that consistency equals safety. To change your mind, to hesitate, to observe yourself too closely feels dangerous. So identity hardens. This hardening is praised. Certainty is rewarded. Strong opinions are framed as strength. Emotional intensity is confused with authenticity. Over time, the persona becomes armor. The problem is that armor blocks awareness as effectively as it blocks threat. Noticing begins to loosen this armor. At first, the loosening feels like weakness. Without rigid identity, reactions have less force. You feel less compelled to defend, less interested in proving. This can feel like loss. The system interprets it as vulnerability and pushes harder, offering familiar roles to step back into. You are encouraged to pick a side, to define yourself clearly, to react in alignment with expectation. Identity simplifies control. Once someone knows who you believe you are, they know how to move you. But when noticing deepens, you begin to see identity as process, not possession. You recognize that many of your strongest reactions are tied to stories you inherited, not truths you examined. Roles you adopted to survive earlier environments now operate automatically, long after they are needed. Jung referred to this as the shadow revealing itself, not as something dark, but as something unconscious. Parts of you acting without awareness, shaping behavior from beneath the surface. The system depends on the shadow remaining unseen. Awareness integrates it. Integration does not mean elimination. It means visibility. As identity loosens, reactions slow even further. You notice the impulse to perform, to posture, to signal belonging. You see how often language is used not to communicate, but to protect image. You become sensitive to when you are about to speak from habit rather than clarity. This sensitivity is not anxious. It is precise. You realize that much of social life is ritualized reaction. Predictable roles interacting with predictable triggers. Once you see the ritual, participation becomes optional. You can still play when needed, but you are no longer convinced by the performance. This is where quiet power becomes visible to others. Not because you assert it, but because you no longer need validation. Your words are fewer, but they land. Your presence is lighter, but it carries weight. You are no longer trying to be seen as anything. That absence of striving creates gravity. People often mistake this for detachment or superiority. It is neither. It is freedom from identity maintenance. You are no longer spending energy defending a self-concept. That energy returns to awareness. With this return comes a subtle confidence. Not confidence in outcome, but confidence in perception. You trust what you notice. You trust the pause. You trust that you do not need to rush to become something in the eyes of others. The system loses leverage when identity loosens. It can no longer threaten you with exclusion, because belonging is no longer where selfhood lives. It can no longer provoke you with insult, because image is no longer central. It can no longer rush you, because urgency has lost its authority. This does not mean life becomes passive. Action still happens. Decisions are still made, but they emerge from clarity, not defense. You act because it aligns, not because you are pushed. At this stage, many feel a strange quietness. The inner noise that once narrated every interaction fades. The constant self-referencing commentary dissolves. There is more space between thoughts, more space around emotion. This space can feel unfamiliar, even empty at times. The system taught you to fill space immediately. Silence was treated as absence. Now silence becomes presence. Presence is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It simply remains. In presence, you see how often identity was used as shortcut. Instead of engaging with reality, you engaged with labels. Instead of responding to what is, you responded to what it meant about you. Noticing dissolves that layer. Reality becomes simpler. Not easier, but clearer. You begin to live from observation rather than projection. You respond to situations as they are, not as threats to identity. This is why others feel steadied around you. You are no longer amplifying emotional noise. You are absorbing none of it. The system still exists. Identities still collide. Reactions still fire everywhere. But you are no longer required to defend a position to exist. You do not need to be right to be real. This is the quiet exit. Not from society, but from unconscious identity. You are still here, still engaged, still human. But the system can no longer tell you who you are. And without that authority, its influence continues to weaken. At some point, noticing stops feeling like an act and becomes a condition. You are no longer trying to be aware. Awareness is simply present, like a background light that never turns off. This is where the final misunderstanding falls away. Freedom was never about escaping the system. It was about no longer being dependent on it for orientation. The system survives by giving direction. It tells people what matters, what threatens them, what defines success, what deserves reaction. When you were inside it, direction felt necessary. Without it, there was fear. The fear of drifting. The fear of meaninglessness. The fear that without constant reaction, life would lose intensity. But what actually happens is the opposite. When noticing is complete, intensity is replaced by depth. You are no longer pushed from moment to moment by emotional surges. Instead, experience settles. Sensations sharpen. Attention becomes stable. You feel more, not less, but without being consumed. This is where many descriptions fail, because language itself is part of the system. Words are designed to categorize, explain, persuade. What emerges here does not need explanation. It is simply lived. You realize that most of what you once called pressure was borrowed. Other people's urgency, other people's expectations, other people's fear of stillness. The system trained you to internalize these forces and mistake them for your own will. Now, without effort, you stop carrying them. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you accurate. You feel compassion without obligation. You understand without absorbing. You participate without disappearing into roles. Emotional boundaries form naturally, without force or announcement. The most striking change is how little needs to be defended. You no longer protect your opinions aggressively. You no longer rush to be understood. You no longer correct every misunderstanding. Truth becomes something you stand in, not something you argue for. This quietness can be mistaken for passivity. But it is not passivity. It is groundedness. You act decisively when action aligns. You remain still when it does not. Both feel equally natural. At this point, the system's most subtle hook reveals itself. The temptation to identify with being outside it. This is the final trap. The moment you turn awareness into a new identity, a new superiority, a new role, the system reforms around it. Noticing includes noticing this. You do not claim exemption. You do not announce clarity. You do not build a self-image around being awake, aware, or different. The moment awareness becomes identity, it hardens. And anything that hardens can be manipulated again. So you let even that go. This is the most powerful act of all. Refusing to turn insight into ego. You remain ordinary. You shop, work, speak, relate. Nothing about your external life needs to change dramatically. The change is internal, but not private. It expresses itself in timing, restraint, presence. People feel it without knowing why. The system continues to operate everywhere. Speed, outrage, fear, identity battles, endless reaction cycles. You see them clearly now, but you are not tempted to fight them. Fighting requires identification. You simply do not offer yourself as fuel. This is why control fails quietly. There is nothing to grip, no emotional handle, no urgency to exploit, no identity to threaten. You are still responsive, still human, still alive, but no longer programmable in the same way. This state is not permanent bliss. Life still brings loss, uncertainty, and difficulty. The difference is that suffering no longer multiplies through resistance. Pain arises and passes. Emotion moves without trapping you inside it. You recover faster, not because you are stronger, but because you are not entangled. Entanglement was always the mechanism. When you were inside the system, everything felt personal. Every interaction carried weight. Every disagreement felt existential. Every delay felt like threat. Now proportion returns. You see what matters and what does not. Most things do not. This simplicity is not dull. It is freeing. Time stretches. Moments feel fuller. You are not rushing through life to reach the next emotional peak or resolution. You are present where you are. The mind stops narrating constantly. Silence becomes familiar, even comforting. From here, power is no longer something you seek. It is something others project. Calm unnerves those who depend on reaction. Stillness unsettles those who live through noise. But you do not manage this effect. You do not need to. You are not above the system. You are simply not inside it. And this is the final understanding. The system never imprisoned you. It invited you. You entered through unawareness. You exit through noticing. No rebellion, no escape plan, no confrontation, just awareness sustained. Once this is seen, it cannot be unseen. You may forget momentarily. You may react sometimes, but you return more quickly. Awareness reasserts itself without effort. The system never fully regains access. This is the quiet ending. Not dramatic, not visible, but decisive. You remain in the world, but no longer of its unconscious patterns. And from this place, life finally meets you as it is, not as the system told you it should be. If this stayed with you, don't label it. Don't rush to explain it away. Just notice how differently you move after seeing it. If you want to keep refining that awareness, without noise, without performance, stay here, not to follow, but to remain clear.